As was introduced, I am Saito. I'm from Tokorozawa City. I am very much honored to have this opportunity thanks to IGES as well as those concerned for realizing this event. Thank you very much for your contribution. Now, without further ado, I'd like to begin my explanation about our city's Citizens Assembly. Earlier, Professor Mikami explained that there is a case of the government-led, and Tokorozawa was referred to as such. And therefore, that's what I'd like to focus on more. That's the government or city hall-led. This shows the location of Tokorozawa City. It is next to Tokyo. It takes about half an hour on train from downtown Tokyo, and therefore it has been developed as a bedroom community with a population of 340,000 or 160,000 households. The size is about 72 square kilometers. As you see here, Tokorozawa City is featured by the beautiful forest, the farmland, as well as residential area, meaning this is a town where the nature and urban function are harmonized. At Tokorozawa City, how we came to establish a citizens' assembly, I'd like to explain about the history or the process. Back to the slide. As I explained, Tokorozawa City has developed as a bedroom community. The big factories, industrial zones are not located within the city. In other words, the carbon dioxide emission from household, the household, in fact, is a major source of the emission. Therefore, for countermeasures against the carbon emission, we have been thinking how we can better address and focus on household emission. For that, we need to change or transform the citizens' lifestyle as well as change of behavior. But to do that, we need to know what are the thoughts held by citizens. We thought we had to start from there, and that was always in our mind of how better to receive the feedback from the citizens. Now in Europe, climate citizens' assemblies are organized in numerous cases, and then it was led by Sapporo and Kawasaki cities in Japan. And then when the young members of the city hall heard that, they suggested that maybe we can have one. And then Mr. Yagishita came to approach us. He is from the EDEP, the Environment, the Dialogue Organization. And then Mayor Fujimoto of Tokorozawa stated that the consensus formation in Europe was a topic that he was interested in, and therefore he showed interest in organizing the Citizens' Assembly here in Tokorozawa as well. The former mayor, Fujimoto, showed great interest in climate change, and he wanted to reflect those issues related to climate change on policies. And that is why the climate change approach in Tokorozawa City is considered as a top-down type of model, but actually it started from the members of the city hall that first suggested organizing such the citizens assembly. And the reason why he came up to realize that he was interested in organizing such a climate assembly was that according to the basic plan on the climate and also action plan in Tokorozawa City, they were about to be revised. So that timing coincided with the suggestion made for citizens assembly, and then we thought that was a prime opportunity to reflect the feedback of the citizens into the basic plan for climate change countermeasures. And now about the objective. As you see here, we want to see that each one of the participants would consider that the global warming is the issue of their own and share the understanding and to be engaged in discussion so that the result of the assembly would be incorporated or the linked to the specific policies as well as revision of the environment, a basic plan on environment as well as the action plan on global warming. So as Professor Mikami said, this appears as the characteristics of the government-led approach. That is, the result of discussion at assembly be reflected on the policies, and then that should be implemented. And that was described as a part of the objective. In other words, this is a commitment to the citizens. In the long history of the municipality administration, the voice of the people would be reflected in the policies, translated into policies. When it is stated as such, you never know what kind of outcome or consequence would be out of the city assembly. And yet, we clearly stated as a commitment that the result of deliberation would be reflected on the policies. This was never done, and therefore, this was viewed as a new challenge for the city. And that also added another uh, major importance to the Citizens' Assembly. The parties to the Citizens' Assembly, who is a sponsor? Is it the city or the NPO or citizens organizations, citizens groups, whether to form the steering committee by citizens? Those different modes were considered. And because it is administrative organization, if city used to take leadership, then there was a limit or barrier for citizens to be part of such a planning and operation. On the other hand, we as a part of the administration are there, and therefore, if the interest of the administration is presented forefront, then that may reduce the significance of citizen participation, and therefore, although it is led by the city, we decided we should be behind as much as possible in operation. We should try to reduce city's interest as much as possible, and also because the administration is involved, then there are various issues concerned. For instance, decision making is quite consuming because they have to eventually submit the proposal to the mayor. And also, there is the expenses as well as the security related the concern, meaning that it will take time. We will lack agility. Well, as in the case of the citizen assembly, it is something that is expected to be agile, and therefore they were not quite conducive to the the institution that is led by or sponsored by Tokorozawa City. But eventually, we decided that the Tokorozawa City has to be there as a sponsor with a commitment that we are going to incorporate the consequences of the deliberation to fulfill our commitment. In other words, we thought that was the manifestation of a resolution. And we also received the cooperation from Waseda University, because Waseda University campus is located within Tokorozawa City, thus academic findings and information were offered. And then Institute for Dialogue for Environmental Policy was also included or involved. That's the party that was in charge of operation by contract. And now about the selection of the participants, we send the invitation to 4,500 citizens who were randomly sampled. And then we received the response from 111 that showed interest in joining. That may seem like a rather small proportion, and yet we selected the 51 from them. And the publicity was something that was involved. That is, in the case of meetings and conferences that are held under the auspices of the city, then there is always a certain the quota, so to speak, for the public participation. And that was a kind of tradition. And then we said that we would not take that approach. In other words, this time we will only select members out of those that were randomly selected in order to represent the situation of the city in such a way. We thought that we should not consider the such traditional approach. And this shows the demography. On the left is the demography in entire city, including the age group as well as where they are inhabited. We try to select members so that they represent the situation of the entire city. And now the flow of the deliberation. There was one concern, that is in Japanese. We often say that who has a big say, who is most vocal, they will lead the discussion. And that's what we were concerned about. Among participants, there are those that know nothing about the environment, who hesitate to speak in front of other people. There are such different members there. And that may be true in other cities as well. So we decided to go for group work, because if the number of members in the group is limited, and then that would make them feel more comfortable to speak. And therefore, in principle, we decided that the group work would be the way to move forward. And we had 5 sessions, and the themes were defined as such: selection of products, food, agriculture, energy, the housing, mobility, and local partnership, collaboration. Those were the themes that were chosen. For those 6 themes, first, experts, local practitioners, and the city hall members were there to provide information, because discussion has to be based upon an informed basis to focus on points of consideration. And information provision, that takes rather long time, yet the accurate, correct information has to be conveyed to the participants, and that is why we decided to take sufficient time for information provision. Once group work started, then is the one that is to generate ideas. Number 2, then try to identify issues that are associated with different ideas, proposals. Number 3, solutions to those issues. Through those steps, the group work was performed, and then at the end, groups gave presentation. They were shared by all the members, and then we received questions from the members and so on. We have to make sure that all the members would have the opportunity to speak up. So, as in the case of the rules that would be typically found, not to interrupt, not to deny, the other people's remarks, try to be succinct and listen to other people attentively by nodding and clap hands once the remarks are finished to make it the place of dialogue rather than the debate. Here are some snapshots. You know that the many Japanese are quite shy, and therefore, when strangers are gathered, and then they hesitate to be engaged in conversation because of hesitation. So we decided to write down the points of remarks and post it, and then that will be placed on the board, and the owner of that the remarks was there to explain. Because by writing down the points on the post-it, then you can summarize and sort out, organize your thoughts, so that you would not digress, and that would also lead to the efficient discussion. And then the post-it notes were collected. And in fact, there were more than 2,000 post-it, meaning that there were more than 2,000 proposals, comments made by the members. Because there were so many, then we decided to classify them according to those the themes, and then try to come up with 28 themes that received the most interest, and then classify them into different categories. That is, the 6 categories. They should be promoted strongly, to at least promoted actively, and then try to show the interest or demand on the part of the participants. Then we created the scatter diagram. This shows the standard deviation on the vertical axis, that shows the dispersion of comments, and then on the horizontal axis that shows the level of support. The promoting bus use, for instance, that received less support or least support, and local produced to be locally consumed that received the highest support. As I said, the result of deliberation should be reflected on policies by the city. In the case of Tokorozawa City, the, the recommendations by Citizens Assembly were actually not produced something that the recommendation that would make a strong demand to the city that was not done. This may be quite controversial, because if you try to draw a conclusion, then in that case, minority opinions may be ignored or discarded, or eventually that results in the ruling by majority. In fact, the significance of the Citizens Assembly is to give more weight onto the minority views, and when this is sponsored by the city, and yet this is entitled as the recommendations by the Citizen Assembly, that is illogical, and therefore we dare not to prepare a recommendation as a conclusion, and that resulted in enormous amount of work. Because in the absence of recommendations, I mentioned that there were 2 remarks, meaning that all of them have to be incorporated in one way or another. And this is a booklet that shows the action plan of the global warming, and we try to match more than 2,000 opinions to the action plan of Tokorozawa City to confirm. And then as a result, we try to identify where there are gaps that are not covered by the basic plan, and then try to come up with the suggestions to bridge or fill that gap. I'd like to explain about this illustration. For revision of the plan and reflection onto the ordinance, still the participants are not practitioners, they are not researchers. So to them, the significance of the impact, if it is incorporated into the policies, we thought that was not clearly understood by the participants. That is why we decided to create this illustration. This is to visualize and share the result of discussion based upon the comments by all the members. So the student Waseda University first draw the draft, and then that was improved. And I think this is well designed. Carbon neutrality by 2050. That's where we are moving forward, and citizens as well as the members of the city hall, the administrators, could be encouraged and motivated to move forward. And here is a QR code for your information. If you're interested in, please refer to the report that we produced. And also, by collaboration with the Waseda University, which is located within Tokorozawa City, we intensified the collaboration and partnership with them, and hope that this would spread into other areas like welfare and healthcare. And the Zero Carbon Club, the kind of association was created by Waseda University and Tokorozawa City. This was triggered by the climate assembly. This is a new type of movement which was not expected in the beginning, and therefore we were quite surprised to see such a progress, and we hold a great expectation toward the association's activities, and we want to support whenever that is possible and necessary. I'd like to share with you my personal impression to conclude. To realize a decarbonization, it is essential to change a lifestyle, yet in Japanese society, especially in the case of a rural city like Tokorozawa City, there are those people who don't want to change, and I would say that there will be rather large number of people who resist to change. But exclude them, and that would result in divide that is not sustainable. Therefore, to those people who would not prefer to change, in order to gain their understanding and support, the illustration that I showed you earlier about the future of Tokorozawa City, that's what we'd like to share with them so that they will be motivated to move forward together with us. And in fact, Climate Assembly made a first step toward such development. Every month on Sunday, Climate Assembly met, and the members were supposed to participate all those 5 sessions. And out of 51 members, there was no one person that dropped out. In other words, their awareness was improved every session that they experienced. And about the Climate Assembly, that was a process of the trial and error. Can't say for sure whether that was a success yet. That was supported by the Tokorozawa City as well as the Waseda University and the Institute of the Dialogue for Environment, and they were engaged in the face-to-face discussion, and close communication resulted in such a illustration, which was not possible by the city alone. Listening attentively to citizens and to work on new challenge together with the stakeholders and young members of the city hall, and that's what we learned out of this activity. We expect the drastic transformation of economy and society, and therefore the future may be even more challenging than now for young administrators. This was a great opportunity for them to learn, to prepare for future challenge. Professor Hiratsuka, Waseda University, and Mr. Yagishita and Mr. Murakami of the Institute for Dialogue of Environmental Policy, thank you very much for your contribution. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.